This is my 23.1, the 4 workplace opportunities in sport, the Unit 23 work experience. So there are 3 providers in the sports industry, voluntary, public and private. So voluntary, their aim is to increase population. It's a non-profit club or organisation for amateurs, run by volunteers and funded by fundraising and like lottery or something like that. So the advantages of being in the voluntary sector is that you don't necessarily need to have the same level of commitment as some other jobs in the other sectors may do, especially if you're not being paid for it. Another advantage is that they're a non-profit club. They're non-profit clubs or organisations, so normally the fees for joining are lower than others. However, the disadvantages of this would be that because they are non-profit and many volunteers don't get paid, the clubs require funding from somewhere, which could mean having to organise fundraisers. An example of where a volunteer might help out at their local, they might help out their local athletics clubs at the competitions, like for timekeeping, starting, or making food, etc. So the public sector, their aim is to make sports accessible. The funding comes from public taxes and the lottery, and it's owned by local council or authorities, run by the council, and it's open to public, so there's no membership. The advantages of being in the public sector is that they get their funding from public taxes and the lottery, which means that all the clubs are open to the public, so there is no membership needed to take part. Another advantage is that there's more security, as where a private company might go out of business, a public one won't, because they are owned and run by the federal government. A disadvantage, however, is that there may be a lower salary than those who work in the private sector. And another disadvantage is that you may not be able to advance in your area because it's difficult to gain promotions and move up in ranks in the public centre. So a private it's business owned or individually owned. It's members only, and and an example is Virgin Active, but I'll explain that in a minute. So advantage of working for the private is that normally you may get paid more than those working in the public or voluntary sector. Another advantage is that it can be easier to move up the ranks in your career as there is more money in the private sector, and if you really wanted to, you could then set up your own business from there. However, disadvantages of working in the private sector is that private businesses can go out of business more easily than the public sector, so you may not have the same amount of just job security. An example of a private organisation is Virgin Active and Falmer. You have to be a member to use their facilities, and it is normally expensive to get and keep that membership. So there are 4 sectors in the sports industry. So health and fitness, you've got so you could have to work over a few different areas, so swimming, gym, healthy eating, massage, or fitness classes. There's a wide variety of jobs available in this sector. For example, you've got a sports masseur, a personal trainer, a sports therapist, or a physiotherapist. Depending on what level of experience you are, you could be asked to organise and lead sessions, or you could be employed to train staff and manage budgets, or just to promote and market the organisation. The second one you've got is sports and recreation, sport-specific roles, and these are sport-specific roles, and this can be in the voluntary, private or public sector. Their main aim is to increase mass participation or sporting excellence, and you will either be working at grassroots levels, or the more experienced will be doing elite coaching. So some of the jobs for these include a duty manager, like at a leisure centre, PE teacher, sports coach, sports promoter, or sports coordinator. The third one is sport and exercise science. This is the most specialised area, and they can work in education or for private businesses. Their job is to do an analysis of the athlete's body and performance and then correcting and making improvements to their techniques, so hopefully they reduce the risk of injury. So some of those jobs include an exercise physiologist, a biomechanist, a sports psychologist, or a dietitian. Finally, the last one is outdoor education. This is a fast-growing sector which tries to get children into outdoor activities. This can be through like school trips or holiday camps. The centres are run by a team of staff and they have specific skills, knowledge and qualifications. And as well as schools, companies often send off staff for training days to develop their teamwork, and they must all comply by the health and safety regulations. So some of the jobs for these are specialist instructor, ground facility worker, mapper, or outdoor/bushcraft course leader. So the first one, for health and fitness, you've got a physiotherapist. So there is a physiotherapy part-time job at Hazelwoods, Sunbury-on-Thames, which is near London and about an hour and a bit away from Brighton. So the travel expensive for this job will be relatively low. The salary for the job will be dependent on the qualifications that you've got, and the hours are going to be part-time, so you've got a fixed-term contract, but it will be a part-time job. So the role of this is basically the London Irish Amateur Rugby Football Club, so the men's senior rugby team, are looking for an enthusiastic and motivated individual to join their experienced medical team. Physiotherapists will need to be present at one training session per week, so it'll be a Tuesday and or Thursday evening for 2.5 hours, and then matches on Saturdays, which will be home or away. In order for you to apply for this post, you have to be HCPC registered, that's for a physiotherapist, and you must also be DBS checked, as you may be required to work with athletes under the age of 18. Your main role will be to help with injury management and also giving players rehabilitation programs who are already injured, and then get them back into the sport and hopefully prevent that injury coming back. You must also have experience in musculoskeletal area, preferably within a sporting environment. And you will also have to comply with professional codes of conduct, standards and guidelines, and be able to maintain clinical notes in accordance with your governing body. Some desirable qualities that would be useful are having previously worked within rugby union, so you know how it works, all the rules, and knowing the possible injuries that could happen to the athletes. Also having experience of working with at least one sports team. As you will be liaising with athletes and also in the medic team, you will be required to have good communication and people skills. So this job, as with any job, has its strengths and weaknesses. The main strengths of this job that appeal to me is that it is interesting. There is always going to be something different that you may not have come across before, and then you can use your own knowledge and get the knowledge from the more experienced people you're working with to help you become better and also to come up with a solution. You can also get a job in the public sector, like the NHS, but then when you get more experience, you can always move to the private sector and either go into an already private-owned business or set up your own. Helping people overcome their injuries can be very rewarding as well. However, a weakness of this job may be that sometimes you have to be prepared to deal with some patients who may never improve, which could knock you slightly because you think that you're not doing something right, even if it's not necessarily your fault. You also have to get a degree to go to university, and this is fine, but you have to do physiotherapy as a whole before you can start to specialise into a particular thing, like a sports physio, to work in the team environment. I think this job would suit me, as I am keen to work with people and in a sporting environment. I also like how if I wanted to, I could progress from the public sector into the private sector if I wanted to. So for sports and recreation, there's a sports coordinator, and the sports coordinator job is in a primary school in North Yorkshire. In order to take this job, you would have to uproot and move closer because it is too expensive and would be far too far to travel each day. This post is a fixed term, full-time contract with a yearly salary of £22,467. There are 4 professional accountabilities that you must have. So that's to be aware of safeguarding, you'll be handling money, so financial management, people management, and equalities.